my name is Allison Sims, and today I'll be talking about drug abuse. Drug abuse affects families more than you would ever imagine because of the addiction it causes. This is something that is an important social issue to me because it affected my uncle for his entire life. Addiction can be defined in many different ways, but Questia defines it as the continuing compulsive nature of the drug use despite physical and/or psychological harm to the user in society, and includes both licit and illicit drugs. And so the term substance abuse is now frequently used because of the broad range of substances, including alcohol and inhalants, that can fit the addictive profile. According to the Columbia Encyclopedia, the United States has the highest abuse rate of any industrialized nation. Here's a graph showing that there are 3.1 million drug users in the United States. As you can see, marijuana is the most used drug, followed by pain relievers, inhalants, tranquilizers, hallucinogens, stimulants, sedatives, cocaine, and heroin. The Addiction Center found that in 2011, over 20 million Americans over the age of 12 have an addiction excluding tobacco. Over 90% of those with an addiction began drinking, smoking, or using illicit drugs before the age of 18. And 100 people die every day from drug overdoses. This rate has tripled in the past 20 years. The National Institute on Drug Abuse also studied marijuana, and they found that marijuana is the most commonly used illicit drug that is used for the first time. They also found that approximately 7,000 people try marijuana for the first time every day. Something will eventually happen to a person's brain when they use drugs for an extended amount of time. WebMD stated drug addiction is a brain disease because the abuse of drugs leads to changes in the structure and functions of the brain. Also stated by WebMD, drugs are chemicals that tap into the brain's communication system and disrupt the way nerve cells normally send, receive, and process information. There are at least two ways that drugs are able to do this. One, by imitating the brain's natural chemical messengers, and two, overstimulating the reward circuit of the brain. I found in an article on WebMD a thorough explanation of what actually happens to the brain when a drug addict starts doing drugs. Some drugs, such as marijuana and heroin, have similar structure to chemical messengers called neurotransmitters, which are naturally produced by the brain. Because of this similarity, these drugs are able to fool the brain's receptors and activate nerve cells to send abnormal messages. Nearly all drugs, directly or indirectly, target the brain's reward system by flooding the circuit with dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter present in regions of the brain that control movement, emotion, motivation, and feelings of pleasure. The overstimulation of this system, which normally responds to natural behaviors that are linked to survival, which is like eating or spending time with your friends, produces euphoric effects in response to the drugs. This reaction sets in motion a pattern that teaches people to repeat the behavior of abusing drugs. As a person continues to abuse drugs, the brain adapts to the dopamine surges by producing less dopamine or reducing dopamine receptors. The user must therefore keep using drugs to bring his or her dopamine functions back to normal, or use more drugs to achieve dopamine highs. Long-term drug abuse causes changes in other brain chemical systems and circuits as well. Brain imaging studies of drug-addicted individuals show changes in the areas of the brain that are critical to judgment, decision-making, learning and memory, and behavior and control. Together, these changes can drive an abuser to seek out and take drugs compulsively. In other words, to become addicted to drugs. The long-term impacts of drug use include strain on the family, emotional drain, and financial strain on the drug user's family as well. Another factor that is impacted is the loss of productivity of the drug user. What would they have accomplished on a personal level if they had not been focused on feeding their addiction? The end result is rarely one with a positive outcome. Most drug addicts die as a consequence of their addiction one way or another. It would be much easier if everyone would just do what Nancy Reagan once campaigned as her mantra for the war on drugs: just say no.